Beyond prompts, harnessing intelligence. A good prompt can improve one answer. It cannot by itself make a project remember yesterday, recover from failure, coordinate specialists, or get better next week. That is the wrong picture of working with AI. The real story is not about finding a magic sentence. It is about moving up a ladder from conversation to governance. Hi, I am Leo. Welcome to Wiki for What? This is where we unpack the mind, machines, and hidden systems shaping the AI era through stories and models you can actually use. My book, Harnessing Intelligence, follows that ladder through 4 eras: chat, prompt, workflow, and constitution. It is partly a history of the years after ChatGPT arrived, partly a record of systems I built, and partly a field guide to a new human role. The simplest way to understand the whole argument is to imagine a small workshop becoming a real company. On the first morning, one astonishingly capable worker appears at an empty desk. You can ask for an explanation, a draft, a plan, or a piece of code. The worker answers immediately. Sometimes the answer is brilliant. Sometimes it is confidently wrong. Either way, you are amazed that a conversation can produce useful work at all. That was the chat era. When ChatGPT opened to the public on November 30th, 2022, the interface was almost aggressively simple: a text box and a conversation. You did not need to learn a programming language. You did not need to understand a model architecture. Natural language became the interface. This changed more than convenience. Before conversational AI, using advanced software usually meant learning its interface, menus, or command syntax. After chat, the machine could meet the user inside ordinary language. The human role was curious user. The AI role was conversational partner. The key action was asking. But our imaginary workshop has a problem. If you tell the worker, make something good, you may get something good, but you cannot reliably explain why. Change a few words and the result changes. Ask again tomorrow, and the worker may interpret the same request differently. Conversation gives access to intelligence, but access is not control. So you begin writing better job briefs. You specify the goal, the audience, the format, the constraints, the examples, and the definition of success. The worker improves, the brief becomes reusable. Other people start selling collections of briefs and calling the craft prompt engineering. That was the prompt era. The central discovery was real. How you frame a task changes the result. A vague request leaves the model to guess. A structured instruction reduces the number of guesses. Roles, examples, output schemas, and step-by-step constraints can turn a wandering conversation into a repeatable task. Prompting also taught an uncomfortable lesson. The machine was not a database returning a fixed record. It was generating a response from the instructions and context it received. Better words could guide it, but words could not guarantee truth. Prompts could be brittle. They could be manipulated. They could work on one model and fail on another. The famous job title, prompt engineer, captured an important transition, but it also encouraged the fantasy that the right incantation could solve every problem. It cannot. A job brief can guide one worker through one assignment. It does not run a company. Now the workshop gets busy. Research must happen before writing. Writing must happen before fact-checking. A polished script must be divided into scenes. Images, narration, captions, metadata, and publishing all have different requirements. No single prompt should carry that entire operation. So you stop asking one worker to do everything. You create roles. One agent researches, another writes, another checks claims, another reviews. Deterministic tools handle file conversion, tests, uploads, and other steps where judgment would only add noise. Outputs move through gates. Independent work runs in parallel. That is the workflow era. The human role becomes workflow architect. The AI is no longer merely a partner in conversation or a follower of one instruction. It becomes a team of specialized workers inside a sequence. This is where nearby terms begin to matter. An agent is not simply a chatbot with a different name. In practical terms, an agent is a model operating in a loop, able to inspect a situation, choose an action, use a tool, observe the result, and continue. A tool might be web search, a terminal, a database, or an application programming interface. Retrieval augmented generation, usually called RAG, can bring relevant documents into the current task. The Model Context Protocol, or MCP, offers a standard way to connect AI assistants with external tools and data sources. These pieces make the workshop capable. They do not automatically make it coherent. Give several agents overlapping authority, and they may duplicate work. Let every agent see every tool, and one may use the wrong capability. Ask one main agent to research, write, render, debug, and publish, and its context fills with mechanical detail before the important judgment arrives. A workflow can become an assembly line with no foreman, no quality policy, and no shift log. Then comes the deeper problem. Tomorrow morning, the workers return with no memory of today. This is not a personality flaw. At the model call level, a text generation request is stateless unless the surrounding application saves and resupplies the state. The model works from the information available in the current call. It does not automatically carry the project's decisions into the next session. An application can explicitly preserve conversation state, but that is infrastructure around the model, not institutional memory created by the model itself. A larger context window helps it hold more material during one shift. It does not create institutional memory between shifts. Think of context as desk space. A bigger desk lets you spread out more papers. It does not tell you why the team rejected an idea last month. It does not preserve the reason behind a naming convention. It does not turn a mistake into a permanent safeguard. Research on long context language models has also shown that relevant information can become harder to use when it is buried inside a large input. More desk is useful. It is not the same as a filing system. RAG helps the worker find stored facts. A memory layer can retain preferences and past events. But facts are not governance. Knowing that a project uses a particular database is different from knowing that every schema change requires a tested migration, a rollback plan, and a review gate. The first is information. The second is a rule about how the organization operates. So the workshop needs one more transformation. It needs a charter. In the Constitution era, the human stops designing only the sequence of tasks and starts designing the system that governs those tasks. The project receives a mission, red lines, roles, workflows, decision records, quality gates, and a session lifecycle. A lightweight router tells the main agent where the authoritative documents live. A handoff file records what happened during the last shift, where the project stands, and what the next shift should do. A final review turns recurring improvisations into durable rules, playbooks, tests, or commands. The word constitution here does not mean that a document magically gives a model values or consciousness. It also should not be confused with a model training method. It means a project-level governance architecture, external, inspectable instructions and mechanisms that persist even when the model session does not. Return to our workshop. It is now a company. The main agent acts as a CEO, not because it owns the business, but because its scarce resource should be spent on coordination and judgment rather than repetitive labor. Specialized agents have bounded roles. Tools sit beneath those roles. Mechanical checks verify that the documents still match reality. The human remains the chairman, setting direction, defining boundaries, making subjective value judgments, and authorizing actions that carry real-world consequences. The most important ritual is simple: start, work, finalize. At the start of a shift, the agent reads the mission, the current state, the team roster, the workflow, and the handoff from the previous shift. During the shift, it dispatches work and verifies outputs. At the end, it records what changed, compresses what still matters, checks for drift, and leaves a precise baton for the next session. That baton is how a stateless model participates in a stateful project. The book grounds this architecture in a production story. I began as a curious user talking with AI. Then I learned to write structured prompts. Then I built a Python-controlled workflow that could turn an idea into a produced video through scripts, images, voice, captions, and publishing steps. It was fast, but its knowledge lived inside branches of code. Every new failure mode required another repair. Later, I moved toward a constitution-based workflow. Code did not disappear, it changed position. Instead of code controlling a stateless model at every step, an AI orchestrator could read governing documents and call deterministic code where precision mattered. The system was slower per run, but it could diagnose novel problems, preserve decisions, and improve its own operating process. The human role shifted again, from programmer to meta designer. This is the core claim of harnessing intelligence. The history of AI collaboration is a history of rising abstraction. Chat asks, "What can this intelligence tell me?" Prompt asks, "How should I instruct it?" Workflow asks, "How should the work be divided and connected?" Constitution asks, "What system should govern the work across time?" Each rung contains the one below it. A constitution still needs workflows. Workflows still need good prompts. Prompts still happen through conversation. The mistake is treating an earlier rung as the whole ladder. The analogy also has a boundary. AI agents are not employees. They do not possess human responsibility, loyalty, lived experience, or moral accountability. Calling one a CEO is an operating model, not a claim about personhood. The human owner remains responsible for the mission, permissions, consequences, and final values. Governance does not remove the human. It moves the human toward the decisions only a human should own. That is why this history matters now. Many people are still trying to improve an unreliable operation by writing longer prompts. Sometimes the prompt really is the problem, but sometimes the missing layer is a workflow. Sometimes the workflow exists, but the roles are unclear. Sometimes the roles are clear, but the project has no durable memory, no enforced boundaries, and no way to learn from yesterday. The useful question is not, what is the perfect prompt? It is, which rung is my problem actually on? If you want the full history, the production case study, and the open source architecture behind it, Harnessing Intelligence by Leo Wang is available through the link in the description. So, where are you now? Chatting with one capable worker, writing better briefs, building a workflow, or designing the constitution that lets the whole system continue without you? Pick one idea from this episode and keep exploring it. The next useful tool, book, or decision will make more sense now. I am Leo. See you in the next one.